Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I do have a recent reads update for you all where I can talk about the latest 5 or 6 books that I've read and tell you my thoughts. I'm trying to do these instead of doing monthly wrap-ups. I'd rather give you my thoughts fresh out of my head as opposed to waiting till the end of the month to talk about everything. So I have 6 books to talk about. Let's talk about the middle grade book that I read. I read Greenglass House by Kate Milford. This middle grade is about a young boy who lives in a inn with his parents. He's also adopted. The inn that he lives in is widely known to be a smuggler's inn where a bunch of people who smuggle, they stay there. It's kind of like an open secret type of thing. This is set during winter, a few days before Christmas is when the book starts, so it has a very brisk, cold feel to it. I feel like this would be a great book to read during the colder winter months. Our main character Milo is so used to the days before Christmas being just for he and his family to spend time together. He's obviously on winter break from school, so it's really surprising when not just one person but a handful of strangers come to the inn looking for a place to stay. This isn't normal. This doesn't really ever happen, and pretty quickly things start to go missing and there seems to be a little bit of a mystery unraveling. It's not a murder mystery or anything like that. It's more so a treasure hunt with RPG vibes. Milo and his friend pretty much play kind of a D&D quest to find these missing items. It's very fun and adventurous in this kind of close, isolated setting. I thought it was really cute and adorable, and I believe this is a series. I don't think you need to continue the series to have good closure. I don't know if I want to continue the series. Maybe if I'm in the mood for it when the winter time comes, but I'm very satisfied with where the story ended, so I don't feel the need to continue the series as opposed to something else where there's a cliffhanger and so on. This pretty much closed off pretty nicely. There was a little bit of a big reveal that I kind of knew pretty on that was coming, so that wasn't shocking to me. Mind you, this is obviously middle grade, so I'm not holding that against the book that I was able to guess a middle grade's plot twist. There is pretty much no fantasy aspect, but it very much does give that fantasy vibe. It's very cozy and quaint, and I don't think it's even explicit where this takes place in. I'm gonna assume the United States, but it could be Canada for all I know. The only thing they do mention is China because Milo, my main character, is of Chinese descent, but that's pretty much it. It is very cozy and adorable, so I gave it 3 stars. So I did read 2 YA mystery thrillers that I kind of want to compare and contrast because I think the 2 biggest things that each book lacked, the other one had. So I'll talk about the first one. The first one that I read was Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McMannus. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I pretty much read everything that Karen M. McMannus has written. I think hers are very good books to start with if you want to read something like that. They're well crafted and well done. There's by no means an issue I have with any of the books. So this is a very straightforward type of mystery. In this book we follow a young girl. I don't remember her name, but she and her twin brother are pretty much going across the country. They're kind of from the Hollywood area and they're going to move to Pennsylvania or Maine or something like that because their mother is doing a stint in rehab. She's kind of a failed actress type who used to have a cult following, or she kind of has a cult following but she doesn't really act anymore. Mom's going to rehab, so they're staying with their grandmother in this little town that has kind of a reputation for young girls disappearing during the homecoming season. The first girl who disappeared was actually our main character's aunt, her mother's twin sister. She went missing. No one ever found her. This was during homecoming season, and then 5 years prior to the beginning of the book, another young girl went missing, and she turned up dead, actually. Again, part of the homecoming season, homecoming court, that kind of thing. And then the other main character that we follow in this book is the younger brother of the boy who was accused of killing the second girl. So both of our main characters kind of have a connection to each missing girl that has taken place in this town, and it looks like there might be some things that are happening again during this homecoming season. So yeah, it's a very straightforward mystery. It's okay at the end of the day. There's a little quick punch of a reveal at the end that I thought was fine. It was it's a very fine book. I mentioned I read all of Karen M. McMannus's books, and a lot of her characters feel very samey to me after some time. At first I thought her characters were good, but like every book seems to have like an overachiever type character. There seems to always be like kind of like comedic relief type character. There's always a character with like a kind of criminal past. Like it starts getting repetitive. This one felt a little fresh as far as characters go. By no means are these characters like stand out, but they stand out from Karen M. McManus's other books. And from the get-go, from the beginning of the story, you do have a mystery starting to unfold. It's pretty quick. The second YA mystery that I read that I kind of want to compare it to is Fragments of the Lost by Megan Miranda. So this book is about a young girl named Jessa, and Jessa's ex-boyfriend has recently gone missing and then was presumed dead. It looks like his car drove off a bridge. They found parts of his car in the river. The bridge was kind of like in bad condition during like a storm or something, so people just assumed that he died. Our main character was already broken up with him, but a lot of people blame her for his death for certain reasons that you find out during the book. But the premise of the book is that her ex-boyfriend's mother asked Jessa to clean out his room because she can't do it for emotional reasons, whatever. So Jessa agrees to clean out his room, and as she's emptying the bedroom, she's finding his things, personal objects that they shared, and she's kind of reminiscing on like when they met and their relationship. And it starts out very like adorable, like two young teenagers in high school first meet. It's like really cute, that kind of thing. And then as the story progresses, as she like goes through his room, she's kind of starting to realize that like maybe the relationship wasn't what it felt like or what it really was on the surface. And I really enjoyed the way she told the story because it's almost told in like flashbacks. Like every time she'd pick up like his book bag, you know, she'd have a flashback, or every time she picked up his like lacrosse sports stuff, she'd like have a flashback. So it kind of goes back and forth between the past and the present, and I personally enjoyed that. I like Megan Miranda's other book. She has an adult mystery where she basically told the story in like reverse chronological order, where it starts off like the day before the murder or the mystery, and then she goes backwards to the beginning. I think she's really good at like creating unique narratives that I don't typically see. So I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. I thought it was really like fresh, and it kept me like into it. We were slowly revealing parts of this young girl's relationship with her ex-boyfriend, and it was like very like something's happening, but we just like don't know. The characters, however, were never like outstanding. They're pretty much flat. We don't really get a good sense of them, whereas in Karen M. McManus's other book, I could kind of at least describe them and understand who they are and their like likes and stuff. This one was kind of just like things are happening to characters. It's all very like bland. Another thing about Fragments of the Lost is that this doesn't really have a clear mystery until like 60-70% of the way in, whereas in Two Can Keep a Secret, pretty much from like the second chapter you are hit with a very like big impact plot point. You're like, whoa, what's going on? So that's kind of where these two books have what the other lacks. McMannus's book is pretty much from the get-go a mystery thriller if you are into something that really just kind of starts off and really gets you going, whereas in Fragments of the Lost it's very like slow. Like there really isn't a clear mystery. You do get a sense that something's wrong, but there is no actual like something happened until like 60-70% of the way. For the most part, Fragments of the Lost kind of just felt like a contemporary kind of mourning type book, because our main character feels really guilty and she misses her ex-boyfriend, and she doesn't really know how responsible she is for his death, and then we eventually get a mystery. So yeah, unique storytelling from Miranda. McMannus's book had a pretty good like mystery overall. What both of these books do have in common is that they do have like small towns, everyone knows their secrets, and I think that's like my thing. Like I absolutely love when people just like know each other's business, because I personally in real life I'm like super nosy. Like I can't help it, I'm so sorry, but it is what it is. So this next book I read, I was really excited to pick up because I've seen the author teasing this on her Instagram stories for quite some time. I think she used like this picture of Adam Driver to tease the book, and I was like, you don't have to say anything else. Like you got me, girl. Like it's good. I will read your book. And that's Fireheart by Emma Hamm. I've read a few of Emma Hamm's books before, and some of her other books have kind of like a folklore vibe to them. She does take a lot from like fae myths and stuff like that. This book has dragons and elves and other like fairy tale creatures. In this book we follow our main character. Her name is, I don't remember. So our main character's name is Lorelai, and she is half elf, half human. In this world, fairy tale creatures are pretty much like hunted down and killed, and there doesn't seem to be too many fairy tale creatures left in this world. The king in this world pretty much has a dragon that is like the threat to everyone. If anyone steps out of line, the dragon will like do the king's bidding and just like burn everything down and kill you. It's kind of hard to like step up against a dragon. And the king also has like a army of soulless knights that pretty much do what he wants. They're not actual people. It's just like, it's like fantasy robots almost. So our main character Lorelai gets wrapped up in this like rebellion that she really doesn't want to be a part of. This rebellion pretty much helped kill her mother, so she wants nothing to do with it, but her hand gets forced and she joins the rebellion. Our king is looking for a wife, and she's going to compete in this like wife Hunger Games type thing. When I mean Hunger Games, don't think like there's going to be this huge competition. That's kind of a huge critique I have of this book. However, Lorelai seems to really be enamored with this dragon. This book pretty much had elements that I was really excited for, like Hunger Games bride search type thing, like there's dragon romance shifters, a rebellion against like an evil king, that type of thing. What I think this book lacked is the depth to explore these themes. Like every time our author would introduce like some aspect of this world, I was waiting for her to like really dig deep and like kind of elaborate on that a little bit, but then she wouldn't, and then she'd like move on to something else, to another plot point or to another aspect of this world that again I wanted expanded more. But it felt not necessarily like a first draft, like she hadn't edited this. It more so felt like when someone first writes a story and they're very excited and they kind of speed through it, and then you're like, whoa, like slow down, like let's sit with this a little bit, and then you know this could be great instead of just like good. It felt like 70% effort when you had all the makings for a really, really good book. I just needed more. Like, you don't need to rush through the story. It was like 300 and something pages. Like, this could have gone longer, I think, and it would have paid off more. I know a lot of people have critiques of fantasy that it tends to meander, but I wish this book had a little bit more meandering so we can get to know the characters, so we can get to know the romance. This is fantasy romance at the heart of that, and that was probably the most developed aspect of this book, is the romance. But even that I felt could have like, we could have gone further with it. Kind of let down, but I'm still like optimistic. I liked how the book ended, and like I will continue on whenever the second book comes out. And the cover is beautiful. So this book also kind of falls into kind of that YA new adult territory that I'm not so totally clear on where like the author stands with that. So I don't think there's anything too explicit, but people, I mean, there's death, so yeah, I would say this is like totally fine for like a young adult reader, if that was something that you're curious about. So I also did read an adult like fantasy that was a bit more explicit than this, and it was Girls Weekend. I read Girls Weekend by CM Nascosta. This is a very short, quick book about a group of girls who all work in the same company, who go on a girls weekend to a, I believe it's an orc nudist community, and they just want to have like good like sexy times with orcs and basically like decompress from like their really shitty, boring lives. This author wrote another like adult like erotic book that I really enjoyed. It was called Morning Glory Milking Farm. I absolutely love this one. This one was still good. Like it still had that really good like easy writing style for me that just like really works. Like it just makes me happy to read her books. I don't know what it is. So I enjoyed that aspect, and each of the three characters kind of had their own storyline, like who they met and like who they hooked up with like over the weekend. I only really liked one of the characters' storylines, and like the person that she met over the weekend. Our other character is an elf from this very like prim proper society that she has like expectations of her, like think like Gossip Girl type of upbringing. So she meets like a bad boy character that I thought he was supposed to be like a bad person. I was surprised that like we're actually supposed to like him. I thought he was like a pimp who like exploits women, but I guess I just read the cues wrong, and he is her love interest, which shocked me because she's had really good chemistry with this like moth woman. Everyone in this universe, by the way, is either human or just some sort of like fantastical creature. Our third character is a werepanther, and she's like your typical like seductive type character, and she goes out to have a really, really wild weekend, and she kind of regrets it at the end of the book, but like she didn't really have a huge storyline. So I'm kind of surprised that the author like left it there. I gave this like a 3-star. I only liked one character and her storyline with the guy that she hooked up with. It's okay, like I'll read the next book. So the last book I read, I picked up from my like TBR jar, where I have all the unread physical books that I own, so I kind of just picked this at random, and I'm kind of glad that I did because it's really kind of helping me shape what I think about this series as a whole, and that is Legacy. This is the second book in the Sharing Knife series by Lois McMaster Bujold, who I know is a very like important decorated author in sci-fi fantasy, except I think this is like one of her less liked series because this is just straight up fantasy romance. By the way, if you hear my dog snoring, he's snoring. In this book we follow a character named Fawn. I think she's like 19, something like that, human from a farm, that kind of thing. And then we follow Dag, who is a lakesider, I think is what they're called, who are essentially like sorcerer soldiers that destroy these like monsters in this universe called like malices. They're kind of like demon creature things. This is the second book, so I don't want to get too much into detail, but at this point in the story, Dag and Fawn are together. They're technically married, and they go visit Dag's family and community, the Lakesiders, and they don't accept Fawn pretty much at all. Humans and Lakesiders, oh my god, they're called Lake Walkers, not Lakesiders. So Lake Walkers don't, like, they obviously like help the humans by killing these malices, because malices will kill like whoever, but they don't get along much past that. So Fawn being married to Dag is like not welcome, and a lot of people like object to them. Dag's own mother doesn't seem to like this idea at all. So this book pretty much just focuses on the issues of like prejudice and like trying to get these characters together and like happy, but their respective communities don't like them together. There's a little bit of like an outside thread, but for the most part, like the main focus of this book, like the main issue is that Dag's community doesn't welcome Fawn at all, even though she's trying really hard for them to like her, but they don't. Like, she's a nice kid, like she's not bad or anything, she's just human, and they're not. This is a very like quaint story. It's like well written and everything, but at no point did I ever feel like a big climax, like something big was happening. But I also don't think that was the author's intention, because there really isn't much more than what it is here. Like there's not like layers upon layers in the story. It's very straightforward. It's like small scale, you know, like it's not this big epic story. I don't hate it, but I'm also not like super like excited to pick up the next one. And this also kind of ended like on a good note. Like, I know there's 2 other books after this, but I don't think you have to go on. And if you like just stop reading after the second book, like it would be like a nice duology. And honestly, like now that I think about it, I think the first book also ended like on a pretty good note. Like, if you want to just stop reading there, I'm thinking like all the books are just gonna be like a good little romance. So I think I would give this like a 3.5 star for my rating as well. So those are the most recent things I've read within the past like 2-ish weeks. I'm already almost done with 2 other books, so I would probably expect another recent reads quickly after this, maybe next week. Let me know if you've read any of these, whether you liked them or disliked them, or whether you're interested in reading any of these. I'd like to hear anything you have to say in the comments down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.